even when it comes to your career, if there's an opportunity for you to try something new, try something different, go out on a limb, if somebody's willing to give you the opportunity, by golly, take it. You know, don't walk away from something good, especially when people see something in you that you can't quite see yet.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Same. Happy New Year.
Yes, happy new year.
I know with the new year, it comes a lot of excitement, motivation, ideas of goals and where we want to be. But on the flip side of that, so many of us feel overwhelmed, stuck, behind, and maybe a lack of confidence or empowerment from reflecting on the past year. Maybe we're not where we want to be. And so I'm so excited to jump in. I know you being the CEO of Together Digital and having gone on an amazing journey of your own, you have so much expertise in this category. I'm so excited to jump in.
Yeah, same, same. And I just want to say to your listeners, like, I think oftentimes we are so put in this mindset because of a date. I would love for everybody that's listening to remember that every new day is like a New Year's Day if you decide to make it so. So even if you feel like you're already behind and we're 5 days into the new year when we're recording this, just know like you're not alone. And every day, like, every new day can be a New Year's Day. But I do love this time of year. Like you said, the chance to reflect, the chance to look forward. But basically, I'm saying do it on your own timeline. Don't feel like you got to do it on everybody else's.
So, why don't you take us through a little bit about your story and your background?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, if I was to throw it way back, I finished high school and went to college, my first year pre-med, which is kind of funny, depending, like different from where I ended up. So those of you who are on a journey right now, just know how it begins is not always the way that it ends. And that what's happening is going to happen for a reason. It's really been a matter of exploration through curiosity and open-mindedness. So I started pre-med and my first year of college. I loved medicine. I loved the science. I loved helping other people. But the thing I loved most was that last part, helping other people. And after my first year of college, I kind of decided that, maybe healthcare wasn't for me for a number of reasons. It's a very taxing job. There's nights, there's weekends, there's holidays, there's trauma. And I still have a tremendous passion and amount of respect for those who work in healthcare. So shout out to all of you because it's no small feat. But yeah, I decided it wasn't for me. And I started just working jobs to see what kind of work did I like. Growing up in a small town, didn't really know what my options were. So I was living in Chicago when I finally kind of caught the bug of learning what marketing and advertising was. I was working at a pharmaceutical research company, and the CMO basically pulled me aside and was like, "You're so creative." And I was working a desk job, like a front desk job. And she says, "I want you to help me create this logo." And it was for GERD, which is like gastroesophageal reflux disease for kids. It was a research study they were doing. They needed to recruit some people. And so I created a logo for these like candy jars and brochures. And I didn't know what I was doing, but the fact that she gave me an opportunity, I was like, I'm not going to pass this up. And so I just did it. And I remember still to this day, like pulling those candy jars out of the box and being like, I made that. I created that. And it was just like that. I said, I think I know what I'm going to do. And so true to my Amy form. Once I kind of made up my mind, I'm going to take action next. That's just how I roll. I started researching schools, and I found a school that I could work during the day and go to school at night, studying advertising and design. And so I switched jobs even. I took a front desk job at a graphic design firm because I wanted to be closer to the kind of work that was interesting me. I think there's so much pressure for us to go straight to college and have that 4-year degree or go for a master's or PhD. And then you leave and you're like, what do I do with this? So the school that I went to was very focused on like not just the academics, but the hands-on learning. I made some great networking and connections that eventually got me internships once I finished school and job offers. But then I had a pivot. My husband was accepted for a postdoc research position at Oxford University in England. So another curveball. Like I said, you make the plans and life just throws a curveball at you. But I went there and worked for a family-owned and operated coffee shop, first by redesigning their website and their social media and their logo, everything I could do until finally I was like, "What else can I do?" After that, came back, I worked on Ford, in my first year, was able to write and direct a spot for ESPN. Then we ended up moving back, where I am now, Cincinnati, Ohio, and started working for a couple other agencies there. And, I've just really been fortunate to I think in the job search, because I know there's a lot of people out there looking for jobs right now, it's all about time, place, and who you know. If you're job searching and you're not networking, you're doing it wrong. You can submit a million resumes. People hire who they know and they hire who their friends know. So for me, networking has really led to some amazing opportunities. One of my favorite ones was that this guy I'd never met before basically offered me a job at double my salary through LinkedIn. I thought it was a scam because of the shared connections we had. There were three gentlemen that, from one from my college years, one that I interviewed with before we moved to England, and then another when I was working on Ford as a client. All 3 of those guys spoke highly of me, and 2 of them had wanted to hire me, and so it was just easy for him to, like, message me and be like, "Hey, you're the person." Well, I was working at a agency as a creative director. I got the title, I got the salary. This is another good lesson, was, just climbing the ladder, doing the things, working crazy hours, and I got the title and I got the salary, and I was like, "I'm not happy at the top of the summit, but I'm not really celebrating. I'm just continuing to work myself to death." And at that point, we had started a family. And so, new priorities. And I was so efficient after becoming a mom. I think women, just a heads up, you're going to get penalized for being a mom in the professional world. It doesn't matter where you are. They're going to assume that you can't manage your time. Your priorities are different. I'm going to tell you they are different, but you learn how to work through anything.
Mm.
You learn how to manage your time so much more efficiently when you've got lives depending on you.
Mhm.
And so oftentimes women get demoted or they get passed over for opportunities. And it was already starting to happen to me before I even had my second kid. And so, yeah, that's when I found Together Digital, or they found me. So I'm not the founder of the organization. I was a member first. And the founder found me on LinkedIn and said, I am starting this women's group. And this was in 2016. So we didn't have a whole lot of groups like this back then. 10 years, man.
I
Time
know.
a while. She was like, "I wanna start a group. This is already in Columbus. I would love to have it happen in Cincinnati." And I was like, "Well, I've got 1 kid and 1 more on the way, and I work 60 hours a week, but sure." I mean, I saw the need. I saw the need, and it wasn't just others' needs, it was my needs. I needed more connection. There was one other creative director that was a woman in our agency.
Mm,
And none of my coworkers were really moms. They didn't know what I was dealing with and facing. And so I needed to be surrounded by people who understood me both personally and professionally. And so I just fell in love with the community and the mission and the people. And after serving on the board for 2.5 years, the founder decided to step aside and run for Congress, which was amazing. And on the whim of another member encouraging her to do as much. And I had been saying for the longest time I wanted to run a business. And, I had kind of lamented as much to her, and I'd been running a board here in Cincinnati for 2 years, and ours was just the most operationally efficient. And I look back now and I realized it was my dual education. It was me working at that graphic design firm and doing the P&L and doing the taxes and managing payroll and office supplies and all of that stuff. I was learning to run a business while I was going to school for advertising and design. So both the job and the college education were both an education. And that's also why as a creative, I was always interested in like the numbers and the resources and the budgets. And people were like, creatives don't care about that. I'm like, but it all matters because I know how it all
right.
feeds in. And so, yeah, I became partner after the first year in the business. She asked me to take over things while she ran for Congress, became partner after the first year, and bought the business after the second year. And that was in 2021. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been a lot of ups and downs. I've been laid off. I was laid off at 8 months pregnant at one
Oh my
point.
gosh.
I got fired when I was in my 20s once. It wasn't anything I did. It was a weird place. I was running Together Digital for about a year and then I became partner. And then after that, about another year later, I actually bought the business. So I've been owning it and running it now since 2019, but then owning it since 2021. And it's been an absolute journey and experience, a mission based business that is community focused during a pandemic that was very dependent on, in person meetings and things like that. I've had to make a lot of changes and a lot of pivots. But like I said, all of it's been lessons. I think all of it is really taught me a lot about not just myself, but like how things work and how things don't work. And, I don't really see it as things that have happened to me. It's more of like it's happened for me. Even the difficult moments, which I mean, we all know COVID was. Any small business will tell you that. So, yeah, it's been an incredible journey. If you would have told me at the beginning of things when I was going back to college that, I'd be owning and running not just one, but actually run another business. I have two businesses now that I'm running. I would have laughed. I would not have been like, "What? No, no way. That's not possible." But, you know, like I said, it's really about timing, and when you find that opportunity, that thing that lights you up is just really going for it, and not really hesitating. I have a good friend, Lucretia, who always likes to say, "You just have to be delusional." You gotta be a little
Mhm.
delulu, you
Yes.
know, about it and not sit in doubt and fear because, fear comes after the action, and confidence comes after the action. It doesn't happen before. You get more confident by doing something for the first time, right? You're learning to swim. The first time is scary. The thousandth time, you're like, whatever. You just get in and you don't even think about it.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I have so many questions,
Yeah.
but I feel like the first thing that stands out to me is, especially now looking back, having gone through all of these different pivots and
Mhm.
changes from, which country you were living in to
Yeah.
career, what job you had, even like
Mhm.
starting a family, that's a huge change. Is there
Mhm.
anything that stands out to you that helped you through those times of
Mhm.
transition, whether they were good transitions or maybe transitions, where something was very unknown?
Yeah, people, community, connections, networking. I mean, it's like my whole life and the story of any success that I've had. I can't really take credit for all the things. I mean, I will take credit for the things that I've done and, how hard I've worked because I've definitely put in a lot of time and effort, hard work and heart into what I've done and where I am now. But at the end of the day, it is absolutely my support network and my people. Um, and it's unfortunate that I didn't recognize it and realize it until I was probably in my 40s or maybe late 30s.
Mhm.
So for those of you who are under that age bracket, like any age is important, but like friendships and community and networking, those things, they take time, yes, but they give time back. And there is not an opportunity that I have had in my entire career that has not been influenced by other people. Um, that has been solely got really on my own. And the other thing I would say is, like I said, being a little delusional is always helpful. But then even when times are hard, again, community. Just this weekend, for example, we had a wise women dinner for one of my good friends who is going through a lot right now. And it was like five or six women. I knew three. Not everybody knew everybody, but like we had things in common. And this one friend who hosted the dinner for her. And we all sat around and we listened and we asked questions and then we all gave anything and everything we could give in the way of resources and support and advice. Um, because, whatever it is that you're going through, I hate to say it, but somebody else has gone through it before. We like to think that like our journey and our experience is the only one out there. Our pain is the only pain. No, that's not true. And people want to help. So asking for help is never a bad thing. Give people the opportunity to help. It makes them feel good as well. And so learning to ask for help is definitely a big part of Together Digital in our community. We have our ask, give, and grow kind of mentality where we ask people to ask for what they need, no guilt, no shame, and to give without any judgment. And when you create or find spaces where you can do this or you can create that space, everyone's going to have an advantage. There's no competition there. It's all collaboration. It's all opportunity. It's all growth. And so I would say, hands down, community is everything for me. It's really gotten me through some of the hardest times in my life, and then helped me celebrate the best moments as well.
I love that, it's such a big part of both ends of the spectrum.
Mhm.
What would you recommend for someone who maybe just graduated, is just starting out in the workforce, or
Mhm.
maybe just moved to a new city or like a new country as you did in terms of starting out networking, building
Mhm.
their community?
Yeah, I would say look for like-minded type spaces where you feel safe to start. I'm not going to sit here and assume that everyone listening is an extrovert that, is neurotypical or any of those things because we're also different. So I would say look for and find places that feel and seem safe for you. And that's going to help you sort of get comfortable in your own skin so that eventually if you have to walk into rooms where you might be an only, it's not going to you're going to have that confidence. You're going to have built that sounding board, that safe space. You're going to have stretched your legs, from a confidence standpoint and somewhere that feels safe. When it comes to moving to new cities, new countries, I'd say if you can do it, do it. Like I said, I grew up in a small town. I got married really young and then moved straight to Chicago. It was terrifying, but it was such an amazing experience. I wouldn't change it. I grew so much as a person. I got to experience so much more of the world. My mind was opened so much by going from a small town to a big city. Although, Chicago's Midwestern, so it's pretty chill. England, I thought, "Oh, they speak English. It'll be so easy. It'll be an easy transition." Oh my gosh, the currency is different. The laws are different. Like, rules are different. There's just culture is different. But go in with an open mind, be curious, seek out some like-minded folks, find your confidence, and then from there, like I said, just kinda keep working at it. Like I said with the New Year's resolution stuff, don't work on anybody else's timeline. Work on your own timeline, and take those baby steps instead of having to make it one big leap. How can you take this one small thing? Okay, I wanna look for a job. Don't think I gotta find a job tomorrow. Think, okay, today I will work on my resume. Tomorrow I'll go to this networking event and I'll introduce myself to 3 people. I find it helpful to set like tangible goals when I'm going into a new space, especially when it comes to networking, because it can feel really daunting and awkward. And as much as I like preach it, also hate it. I love building relationships, but I don't like transactional. I want it to be transformational. I want to show up and have something to offer others and then for others in return to want to help me out. But I'm not going in there solely looking for other people to help me or give me a job. If I'm out networking looking for work, I'm going in saying, yeah, I'm a great copywriter. I'm super conceptual, creative, and, I can do presentations and I can direct, TV spots and all those things. And then I have career wisdom and experience. Like go in, not just thinking about what you can get from these situations with community and networking, but what you can give. And I think if you go in with that mindset, for women especially, that actually helps you because you go in and you don't feel so desperate. I think we go into these
Mhm.
situations feeling like, "I'm so desperate, I need a job." Don't even make it about that. Talk about your hobbies, your interests, your passions. Like, find that human level to connect on, and then if you need to work your way up to looking for work, then you can. And you'll know the right time. Trust your body. You'll know when it feels right to bring that part up. And then follow up on the networking and the community. When you meet someone and you really truly connect, don't just leave the situation and never come back to it. Like, send a thank you. People love handwritten notes. For those of you who are graduating college and going out into the working world, be different, be unique in how you approach the job search. Um, Show that you research the company well, go the extra mile, ask a lot of questions, in my opinion. I love people who come to interviews with questions. I usually don't hire people who don't ask me questions in interviews, honestly. But yeah, that would be my advice. I've got a lot to offer.
As you should. I love what you're saying about breaking these big goals down into smaller steps. I
Mhm.
feel like that's such a huge part of, New Year's
Mhm.
resolutions, why they can feel so, all this motivation and then a quick burnout because we're not
Yeah,
breaking things down. I also love what you're saying about trusting your body to know
mhm.
when it's the right time. Is there anything that helped you know to trust yourself or take that leap of faith, maybe if consciously you weren't sure, but you knew you
Yeah.
had to trust the process, trust yourself in
Mhm.
one of these steps?
Well, I'm gonna get real woo with you for a second. So
Oh, I
there's
love that.
something I had a podcast guest on a while back on my show who talked about human design. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, it rings a
Okay.
bell.
It's gonna be a rabbit hole for you all, so I
Yeah.
apologize in advance. So I'm trying to think of how to best explain it. It's, I'm huge into personal development, so I know like my Enneagram, my Myers-Briggs, my DISC, all that stuff. I love learning about myself and others, especially. I really love learning their things. This is actually based on your birth date, time, and location, which is where it comes in to be a little more woo. It's not like a personality test or anything, but it's essentially the idea is that we are all designed differently. Like our thinking patterns, our behavior patterns, everything is different. And our design is ours and ours alone. And human design is really about understanding um like one of the biggest things I took away from it was like your authority. And so you can either have like an emotional authority, sacral authority, which is like your gut. And then I'm not remembering the others right now. It's been a minute since I've been in the rabbit hole and the weeds of it. But you can definitely look it up. There's a lot of good podcasts on it. There's a lot of good apps there out there on it. But once you learn your human design, for me, mine was sacral authority, which means like my literal gut. And some people are kind of meant to make it's like I was saying earlier with like the New Year's resolutions. It's always on everybody else's timeline. Or if you're gonna have these goals, this is the exact formula you follow. And then we follow the formulas and we're like, why didn't that work for me? That worked for them, but it didn't work for me. Like that's all of us, right? Everybody's picked up somebody else's template and tried to make it fit and realize it doesn't. It's because we're designed differently. And
Mhm.
so sacral authority means that like I will know it the instant that I know it and I just have to trust it. And so for sacral authority types, you need to basically make a lot of yes or no questions. Do I want you don't say this or this, like, it has to be yes or no. This is how you know your sacral authority too, because it's like open-ended questions like, "What do you want for dinner tonight?" kinda tend to piss you off. But it's like, do you or you have to make it I'm sorry, you have to make it a yes or no or an and or. But yes or no is like the best. So then you might say, "Do I want Thai or Mexican for dinner?" And I'm like, "Oh, I feel so torn." So then you might be like, "Do I want Thai?" Yes. Do I want Mexican? Oh, yeah, no, I don't really want it. But if you give me both, it's too much.
Mhm.
Um, Emotional authority types need to sit with the decisions. They actually need to feel the feelings. And this is also why, I mean, this is also basic psychology of like how there's like a whole decision funnel out there of like people who are kind of that surface level, they need minimal information, minimal research, and they will just make a decision based on their gut and they go straight to action. But then as you get further down the funnel, it gets tighter and they will literally spend more time in the weeds and researching and researching and researching, and they will delay a decision forever, right? It's like, what would you call it? Oh gosh, I'm losing the word. It's analysis paralysis, where you're
Mm.
literally paralyzed because you're spending so much time at the bottom of that funnel analyzing and researching and reading before you decide. So I kind of love like knowing the basic psychology of how we think through and make decisions and knowing how we do that internally, but also coupling it with the woo of like, I just need my gut to tell me, yeah, this feels right. And it's actually something you have to spend time developing. That intuition, and I'll say that for women in general, I think we get conditioned to not trust our intuition and our gut, but how often does our gut prove us right? And then we look back and we're like, why didn't I listen to myself? So
Mhm.
I would say that's why I started with like the examples of food. It seems so small, but if you actually start to pay attention to how your body responds to certain options versus like, growing up, we were always like, pros, cons list.
Yeah.
That works for some. That never worked for me. So I don't have any one particular answer that's like, here's exactly how you will make decisions or how to make decisions. It's more of like learn and trust yourself. And look back. What are the decisions that I've made that were really good decisions? And what did I do before that to make that good decision? And what about that decision felt good? So yeah, I hate to say it, but honestly, after that long answer, the answer's within you.
Mhm. Mhm. That's so
And it's gonna
true.
be different for everybody, it's gonna feel like some people might say, I feel it in my belly," and some other people might say, "No, I feel it like a ringing in my ears." Things like that. Because 'cause I'm also into somatic stuff, so, like, body mind awareness is, like, a whole whole 'nother thing I can nerd out on, but I won't because 'cause I've already thrown a lot at you. But yeah, I think learning, and just paying attention to those small decisions will help you get conditioned to when you have big choices, it's almost a no-brainer. because you just know how you make the choice and you go through the process of making your choice.
I love the food example because it just goes to show there are opportunities every day to practice this. Do you think your definition of confidence has changed throughout your journey?
That's a good question. Um, yes, I think it has because I think a lot of us assume confidence looks a certain way. Um, but I think there's loud confidence, there's quiet confidence. Um, and it can show up in a lot of different ways, kind of like success. That whole definition has changed for me over the years. I thought it was a title and salary. I thought it was owning and running a business, but to me, confidence is less about being self assured and more about knowing yourself. Because when you know yourself, it's just kind of like there's just no question. It's just easy to be confident. You don't have to fake it till you make it. I'm using the air quotes for those who are listening. You don't have to fake it till you make it when you truly understand and know yourself. So I think spending that time going down those rabbit holes, reflecting upon how you respond and what are your stressors and what things bring you joy? Anything that you can get your hands on to do that, that's actually what's going to give you confidence. That and then just risk taking. I think oftentimes in the professional world, we are very much, and even like as kids, right, we're conditioned to be safe, wear the helmet, don't climb the trees, things like that. But I think, for anybody to find any success, you have to take risks and you are going to fail. It is 110% likely that you are going to fail at something because that's how you get to success. I just recently heard I was at Content Marketing World um, speaking, but listening to one of their keynotes. And actually, it was, oh gosh, what's his last name? Guy from How I Built This. I was so psyched. And he was talking about the guy who created Dyson. He's like the richest person in the whole world or something crazy like that. And he was literally at 45, living in his mom's basement after having lost every bit of money he had. He like lost his house, his wife left him. He
Wow.
like had all these tried patents and they all were failing. And then he was working in a warehouse, I think he said, and happened to notice like the fan units in like the warehouse and got to thinking about how that design would serve well as like a vacuum because they were having all of these issues with like dust and things like that on the floor kind of stalling the systems out. And so through that process, he ended up having the idea for like the Dyson engineering method. And now what they're making like hair dryers and everything. And
Yeah.
he's like loaded again. So success can come at any time and in any way, but without knowing yourself and without trusting yourself enough to take risks, the confidence isn't going to come. Like nobody else can give that to you. Like you have to find it within yourself.
I actually heard someone say that most CEOs get to be so successful and like get these titles because they just try and they just put themselves
Yeah.
out there and take that
Mhm.
action versus, like you were saying earlier, getting to the bottom of that funnel and just overthinking everything, scared to make a move and just standing still.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, honestly, people want to hire people who want to try,
Mhm.
and if you're in a company culture that doesn't celebrate risk and, failure and learning from that, then, it might not be a great place to go and grow. If it's the paycheck and that's all you want, fine, go get that paycheck. I'm not going to say no. But yes, I think if you really truly want to find self-assuredness or confidence. It's really not like I'm not confident because of all of the success I've had. I'm confident because I've failed a lot and I've had to go through a lot and I've learned a lot. It's really more my failures that have shaped me than my successes. Again, I think we tend to as women, like we just move right on. We're like, okay, next. We don't celebrate ourselves and the things we
Mhm.
accomplish very often. And it's like short-lived anyways, because we're like, well, that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it really is, taking those risks and having those moments. I mean, that's really what life is for, and we've only got one. So yeah, even when it comes to your career, if there's an opportunity for you to try something new, try something different, go out on a limb, if somebody's willing to give you the opportunity, by golly, take it, you know? Don't walk away from something good, especially when people see something in you that you can't quite see yet. I would say that was a big thing for me too. it was scary having the owner of a company that I was very much behind say, "Do you wanna run this ship?" And I'm like, me? Why are you picking me? Why are you asking me?" Thousands of women, amazing women, like, why would I was questioning so much about why me instead of being like, "Hell yes, like, of course me, like, this is something I should say yes to." I had to get everybody else's advice and support before I felt confident in taking that step, which again, nothing wrong with that, but at the end of the day, um we waste a lot of time and energy, mental energy, trying to kind of get what we need from others when it's really all there within ourselves.
I love what you were saying earlier too about looking back at your past successes or even failures and like what worked, what didn't.
Mhm,
I feel like especially when, someone feels like they're in a new chapter, it's like looking ahead, how am I going to do this or try this or take this risk?
mhm,
But there's really so many examples that we have within ourselves from past
mhm.
experiences.
When you're faced with a challenging decision or something that feels scary, you don't the answer is within you, yes, but you don't have to do it alone. I do think like
Mm.
the wise women dinner that we talked about, like pulling together 4 or 5 of your close friends and saying, "Hey, listen, I'm struggling with this decision. I could really use somebody to talk about it, sounding board." Or go to somebody who's been through it and say, "Hey, listen, I know you've experienced this. I would love to hear your thoughts. I have specific questions about how you navigated this." And I will say this, like, you know, take it and take what you need and leave the rest, because everybody's individual experience is also their own. And so there's always comes like a certain amount of weight and unique experiences that may be different from yours, but there's always things that you can take away. And I'm weird about this too. I am a lead by consensus kind of gal. Um, I'll know what I want to do and need to do, and then I'll look to others to say, like, "Hey, what do we think about this?" to get the input. But for me, it's data,
Mm.
and I will take what I need and leave the rest, and usually come back to the decision that I had originally, but I feel more reinforced, I guess is the word, by the decision. I feel more certain because maybe other people have supported it. And I've definitely had people tell me, "No, don't do that." I had somebody tell me, "Don't take the Together Digital job. Don't do that. That sounds awful. Like, that's gonna be bad and blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, thanks. I appreciate it." And I did it anyways, because they had their reasons and they had their logic for it. And all of it was stuff that was worth considering. I just, I considered it and then made my choice. When you're looking for a mentor, I think a couple things that I have advice on there usually consistently is, you know, anybody can be a mentor. I also believe in reverse mentorship. So, like, they don't have to be older than you. They could be younger than you and maybe be in the role that you would like to be in already. They could work at a company that you admire. They could have a job that you admire and look up to. And when you come to people, when it's a mentor mentee situation, I do what the old boss taught me, which is the 3 C's, which is every time you meet, you share a comment, which is your general status of how things are going, a celebration, something that went well since you talked last, and then a concern. And 2/3 of the time is actually spent on the concern. And that's usually something specific. Like I have a question about, I'm looking at these 2 job offers. How do I decide between the two? And I think, when it comes to being mentored, it's really important for you to own that relationship. They're giving their time to you. I also coach on the side, and I have a lot of friends who run coaching businesses. So sometimes people will charge you for this stuff, and so they're giving you their time. So I would always say make sure that you respect that. That's why I like the 3 C's. It kind of keeps me focused on like what we need to talk about. There's like an agenda for every time we meet. And then as far as what they give me from that, like, own the relationship, put the calendar invite on the calendar, once a month for an hour every month if they agree to that. Make sure that it's a good fit. If you don't feel it, if they don't seem to feel it, don't push it. So I think it's important to find mentors that and it can happen so organically. I think again we over rationalize and over process the idea of mentorship, but you're probably getting mentored more than you realize even right now. But kind of just keep an eye out. They can really come from anywhere. And then when it comes to sitting down and asking those questions and getting the advice, I just think having thoughtful questions is always really helpful to make the most of any conversation. And then, like I said, give your self time to sit with it. Don't let other people make the decision for you. Take that as data, even the mentorship portion of it, because again, their situation is never going to be apples to apples. And then, do what you need to do in your instance. If you're emotional, you're going to sit and wait through it. If you're sacral, you're going to just, how do I feel? What I need to do? Go. So yeah, I think it's really just it's maximizing um, mentorship and guidance when anybody's willing to give it, even if it's just a one off.
My last question for you is if you could go back to the start of your journey or like when you were in your 20s,
Mhm.
what would you tell yourself now after so
Man.
much experience?
Um, it's all going to be okay. I mean, life is going to life and things will get really hard, like harder than you can really imagine. It sucks to say that. I'm not trying to be super dark. I'm just being honest. God, especially once you hit middle age and like freaking perimenopause. Good God. Um, I would say, yeah, just know that it's going to be okay. You're definitely stronger than you know. And, just you're going to spend your whole life getting to know yourself better and better all the time. Um, so don't outsource that knowing, don't outsource that knowing of who you are, who you're meant to be, where you're meant to be. You can collect all of the data that you want, but what you do with it is up to you. Everything that happens to us is happening for us. Running and owning a business taught me so much about myself. Not to say that I wasn't humble before, but like, golly. Um, Every experience has taught me so much about myself and the world, and I think keeping that curiosity, like I said at the beginning, of, learning about the world, about yourself, it's just gonna serve you well. Surround yourself too, this is the other thing, so it's gonna be okay, would be number 1, and the second is, um, really surround yourself with people who are truly behind you and support you and who are from all different backgrounds and walks of life. You need people who are older than you, people who are younger than you, people who grew up in different lives than you, different races, different religions. It is going to make your life richer. It's going to make you wiser. It's going to make life more enjoyable. And it's really going to give you so many more, again, from a data. If you just look at it from a purely data perspective, it's going to help you so, so much. And so I think, me having, close friends who are 10, even 15 years older than me has been such a blessing because they can tell me they can tell me it's going to be okay. And sharing your stories and being authentic and honest, especially for women about these experiences of getting laid off, of becoming a parent, we got to be more open about that stuff. It's so important for anybody else that's coming up behind us. These are all the things I would have wanted to know, you know, at that time. So I would say, yeah, definitely kind of expand your circle, have your circle, and know it's going to be okay.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing to get to know you and just
Same.
absorb all of this wisdom. Is there anywhere specific people can connect with you
Sure.
or follow you to learn more?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram at Amy P. Vaughan, Vaughan. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I used to be on LinkedIn a lot. Then I started just running a second business and I'm not on it as often. But if you message me, I will absolutely message you back. And then Together Digital's website is togetherindigital.com. And then if you're in the Cincinnati area and you're looking for an amazing co working space with abundant community and creative, collaborative space, I'm now managing a 39 square foot co-working space in downtown Cincinnati. It's the marketercollab.com if you want to check that out as well. If you're just traveling through the city too and you want a place to hang out and work for the day, yeah, I'd love to have you come by.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much.
of course.
Everyone, leave your thoughts down below and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.